And Bria Hartley right here. This is Hartley right here coming
she
in.
To slide over right there. And Hartley just kind of falls
and she
crushes
in on the knee of Sophie right here.
She went down hard.
And that was it.
That's like she tried
Sophie
to slide
was
over
upset.
Right there, and Hartley just kind of falls
and right there once again into the knee. They had to pull out towels to sort of cover the situation up.
Playoff dreams hanging by a thread, a star screaming in pain, and a controversy that has the entire WNBA fan base divided. Sophie Cunningham went down with what looked like a brutal knee injury, and now Indiana Fever fans are fuming. Was it just bad luck, or is the WNBA failing to protect its own players? Either way, the Fever's postseason hopes just took a massive hit, and the league might have a full-blown crisis on its hands. It all unfolded in the middle of Indiana's matchup against the Connecticut Sun. Sophie Cunningham, the emotional spark plug of this team, collided with Bria Hartley under the basket. At first it looked like routine contact, but within seconds it turned into a nightmare.
Sophie Cunningham, oh man, I gotta tell you, this victory, it came with a big price.
Sophie clutched her knee, let out a scream, and collapsed to the hardwood. The arena froze. Trainers rushed over. Her teammates gathered around in disbelief. And then came the sight nobody wanted to see. Sophie being helped off the floor, unable to put weight on that right leg. Think about how cruel this timing is. Just the night before, Sophie was celebrating her 29th birthday. Less than 24 hours later, she was sitting in the locker room. Season in doubt, her team's playoff dreams hanging by a thread. Sports can be beautiful, but they can also be downright vicious. And this moment was the latter. For a player who prides herself on toughness, seeing her unable to even stand was a gut punch. Not just to Fever fans, but to the entire league. To understand why this is such a disaster, you've got to look at how important Sophie Cunningham became after Caitlin Clark went down with her groin injury. Everyone wondered, who would step up in Clark's absence? Who would bring the energy, the swagger, the leadership? And Sophie delivered. She's not just a role player anymore. She's been scoring in double figures, hitting clutch threes, defending wings, and most importantly, setting the tone every single night. She's been the enforcer, the voice in every huddle, the one opponent teams know they'll hear from. You can't replace that kind of presence with a bench player. So losing Sophie now isn't just about losing points on the scoreboard. It's about losing the fire that kept Indiana competitive without Clark. It's about losing the glue that held the locker room together. For a team that was already walking the tightrope between survival and collapse, this injury could be the blow that tips them in the wrong direction.
Bria Hartley back at it again with her shenanigans, and this time around, she had her eyes set on one Sophie, the trophy Cunningham. Sophie, get well soon. Hopefully the MRI later today shows nothing too serious. Would love to see you back on the court.
Now let's be real. The second Sophie Cunningham hit the floor, this wasn't just about an injury anymore. It turned into a controversy. Because within minutes, fans, media, and even Sophie's own family were lighting up social media. Her sister Lindsay didn't just defend her, she went straight for the league's throat, calling the officiating pathetic, and blasting the WNBA for worrying more about fines than about actually protecting their athletes. That post went viral instantly, and it struck a nerve. And you know why? Because this isn't just about Sophie. This is about a league-wide issue that's been building all season long. Fans have seen Caitlin Clark get hammered with hard fouls. They've seen Paige Buecher supposedly getting favorable whistles. They've seen games where refs swallow the whistle for one team and blow it non-stop for the other. And the end result is what we just saw with Sophie. A game spirals into chippiness, the officials lose control, and suddenly you've got a star player writhing on the floor with a potential season-ending injury. Here's where the debate gets fiery. One side says, Sophie plays too physical. She dishes it out, so she's got to be able to take it. But the other side, and this is where most Fever fans land, says aggressive basketball is one thing, but letting the game become reckless is on the refs. Their job is to set the tone, keep the game under control, and make sure star players don't become injury casualties in meaningless collisions. And this is where the WNBA looks shaky. Fans are asking, how can a league that claims to be growing, that wants more sponsors, more TV deals, more eyes on the product, keep letting its brightest stars take this kind of punishment?
Sophie's sister Lindsay and her mom Paula. At WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game, protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie Cunningham. Yeah, officially, my two favorite players in this league.
How can you market Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Kelsey Mitchell, and then watch them get hacked, shoved, and even injured with little accountability? That's why this injury isn't just a fever problem, it's a league problem. Sophie Cunningham's sister said what a lot of players and fans have been too scared to say out loud. The WNBA has an officiating crisis, and it's putting players at risk. Now let's zoom in on Indiana, because if you think this is just about one player missing time, think again. Sophie Cunningham's injury couldn't have come at a worse possible moment. The Fever are clawing for their playoff lives. Every game down the stretch matters, and now they've potentially lost their second most vocal leader behind Caitlin Clark. That's not just a setback, that's a landmine. Without Sophie, Indiana's entire system looks different. Offensively, she spaces the floor, she knocks down threes, she forces defenders to stay honest. Without her, defenses can collapse on Aaliyah Boston in the paint and smother Kelsey Mitchell on the perimeter. Boston starts seeing double teams every possession. Mitchell starts facing traps she hasn't seen all season. That kind of defensive shift can sink a team overnight. And defensively, Sophie doesn't always get the credit, but she's been one of Indiana's toughest perimeter stoppers. She'll body up wings, chase shooters off the line, and throw her weight around to send a message. Without her, the Fever lose that edge. They lose that player who makes life miserable for the opposing team's star. And when you're going up against names like Paige Beckers, Sabrina Ionescu, and Arke Ogunbowale down the stretch, losing that kind of toughness is a killer. Then there's the mental side. Sophie isn't just a stat line. She's the spark. She's the one screaming in huddles, barking at refs, chest-bumping teammates, igniting the crowd. When you're in a playoff chase, those intangibles matter. Without her voice, the Fever risk going flat at the worst possible time. And let's not forget, Indiana doesn't have the cushion to absorb this. They're not the Liberty or the Aces who can cruise into the postseason. They're fighting tooth and nail just to survive. Every single game could decide their fate. And now, without Sophie, they have no margin for error. If they miss the postseason by one game, fans will look back at this moment, Sophie Cunningham clutching her knee, and say, that's where our season ended.
Perhaps this is a good sign. This is the Fever locker room after the game. You can see Stephanie White still a little bit emotional, which we'll get to in a second, but that is Sophie Cunningham obviously behind her. Doesn't really mean anything except for Sophie was celebrating the win, but you take any positive signs you can get if you're rooting for the Indiana Fever right now after what was an extraordinarily positive win. I put it that they saved.
Now let's talk about why this injury hurts so much more than just basketball terms. Because this isn't just another player going down. This was Sophie Cunningham's season. This was her redemption arc, and now it's hanging in limbo. Think about where Sophie came from. 6 years in Phoenix, always the grinder, always the role player, always overshadowed by bigger names. She built a reputation as a scrappy fighter, someone who played with fire but didn't always have the stats to back it up. Critics said she was all bark, no bite, that she'd never be more than a bench piece. But Indiana gave her a second chance, and she ran with it. This year, she became the enforcer, the emotional leader, and yes, a legit scoring threat. When Caitlin Clark went down, it wasn't just Kelsey Mitchell who stepped up. It was Sophie. She was hitting big shots. She was defending multiple positions. She was firing up her teammates and refusing to let the Fever fold. She wasn't just talking anymore. She was backing it up. And that's why this injury stings. Because this was supposed to be her moment. Her year to silence the critics. Her chance to show the WNBA that she's more than just a role player. And instead, we're left with the image of her clutching her knee on the hardwood. In visible pain. Her playoff dream slipping away. It's brutal, it's unfair, and it's controversial because, once again, it feels preventable. If the league had better officiating, if games didn't spiral into reckless physicality, maybe Sophie isn't in this spot. Maybe she's still on the court, still leading Indiana, still proving people wrong. But here's the thing. Sophie Cunningham doesn't stay down. She's too stubborn, too fiery, too competitive to let this be the end. If she misses the rest of the season, you can bet she'll attack rehab like she attacks opponents. No hesitation, no fear, nothing but fire. And when she comes back, you better believe she'll have a chip on her shoulder the size of the entire WNBA. Still, for the Fever right now, this is devastating. They're trying to make the playoffs for the first time in years, and their two most important leaders, Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, are both sidelined. Can they survive without her? Can they rally without her energy? Or is this the moment that ends Indiana's dream run before it even begins? One thing's for sure. Sophie Cunningham's injury isn't just a setback. It's a turning point for her career, for the Fever's season, and maybe even for the WNBA itself.
Bria Hartley sees Sophie's legs and says, that's the direction I'm going to fall in. Even though she was getting defended from the right side, pushing her left, she decides to fall straight forward with a little bit of shoulder action, falling into Sophie Cunningham's knees. Bria Hartley is a dirty player. There's no other way to slice this cake.